this one we'll see a typical breakdown of the satellite in regular subsystems. So you're familiar with the first top level split between bus and payload. Bus meaning basically most of what's needed to accommodate the payload in terms of power, in terms of structure. Even though the payload has its own structure, it's mostly about power, thermal balance. Attitude, of course, attitude and orbit control. We've seen it last time, I think, the difference between attitude and orbit. You okay?
Attitude was like where it is directing, and orbit is the movement.
So yeah, okay. More precisely, you have the orbit is more or less the history of the position with time. And the attitude is the direction of a certain set of axis of the satellite with respect to a predefined orientation in space. So most of the mission will require either the body or some parts of the payload or both to be aligned in a certain direction and with sometimes some degree of agility. So, on the bus, structure, thermal, power, we've talked about that. TTNC, you're familiar with that terminology already, most of you, standing for telemetry, tracking and command. And TTNC will see those also with kind of top-level management of the satellite. AOCS, attitude and orbit. And then on the payload side, we look at telecom payload, navigation payload, which are pretty much similar. And then on the other side, generic term for Earth observation, imagery is remote sensing. So it's basically images for various purposes. A few illustrations of the bus. Usually, the point here is that I think I mentioned that before. One of the interests of looking at the industrial side for people like you who may have to work on more specific mission on the new space. One of you was talking about mining last time or last hour. The beauty of that is for you to know what's there, what's been done, and what can be reused. So the interest being not to reinvent the wheel when something is already there close to what you do. To this extent, this kind of each prime will develop at a given point in time for a certain duration, like 5 years, 10 years. A generation of bus for a given segment of the market. So that segment corresponding to a certain span of masses, payload masses, or total mass of the satellite, a certain span of power, so in the 10 kilowatt, 10 to 15 kilowatt, for instance, so forth. So, and then they will try to reuse that bus as much as possible for geo, of course, but sometimes for other orbits as well. Thales, for instance, has been designing some generic platform as well for MEO. The first generation of O3B satellites, MEO, was derived from another MEO platform previously used. I don't have the name right in my head. So on the top right picture, what you see here is two things of interest. One is common with the picture on the other side, on the left side, and that's basically the solar arrays that you can see on each side that extend. And also you can guess from that there might be some kind of motor that would enable the solar array to be always more or less sun-pointing as the satellite rotates around, in this case, the Earth. The other element that you can see on the left side here is that what you can see is the importance of these deployment mechanisms. For large geos, you have usually missions that require a certain number of reflectors. The customer, since the satellites are getting bigger and bigger, there's a good reason for that. We'll talk about that in a minute. The customer on a single satellite will want different aperture for corresponding to different markets, for instance, or corresponding to different colors, different colors for a given, for instance, multi-beam satellite. Have you guys heard about multi-beam satellites, this sort of things in general? Mr. G, I'm sure you have. What about the others? Multi-beam satellites, does it ring a bell?
Someone told us about this. We had some information on
You've
the
been-
course.
You've been told about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
Mhm.
did they tell you about multi-beam in a nutshell?
They showed us photos.
Sorry?
They showed us photos. It was some, I don't know,
Yeah.
basic information.
Yeah,
Footprints on the ground or photos of the satellite? What do you mean?
from the satellite, what it is facing on the Earth.
Yes, footprints.
Okay.
Yes.
So like small dots, small areas.
But what did they tell you about basically the difference between a satellite, a typical satellite for broadcast, for instance, and a typical multi-beam satellite? What are
The,
the key
they,
differences?
they cover smaller. The footprint is smaller of the multi-beam satellite.
Okay.
And they have a much higher throughput.
Yes.
And how do they do that? Total throughput. How do they do that?
Free.
In a nutshell, roughly. Mr. G, I'm sure you have an idea of that.
They reuse the frequencies.
Absolutely, absolutely correct. Yeah. Any analogy that comes into mind in this way, the way they reuse the frequencies? Like? Mobile phones. Exactly. Exactly. So, and the way, and further on, the way they do that is they use multiple feeds for a single reflector, and each feed will produce a beam next to the other. If you think about optics, you guys have heard about optics. I mean, you worked with optics in your engineering life a little bit, not at all, a little bit. My point is, in general, antennas and RF, despite the specialists saying otherwise, it's pretty close to optics. So basically, the two laws of optics that usually apply are reflection, ring a bell, reflection, billiard, you play billiard?
Mhm.
Reflection, and refraction, when you go from one index to another index. So that's when you change. So these are the two laws, but even only reflection, I mean, it covers a lot of the basics. So just, yeah, that was just, so just coming there to from the multiple, because usually on a multi-beam, typically you will have, it's not always the case, but you may have 4 colors for the frequency reuse, A, B, C, D, C, D. That rings, you've seen that or already? No? Okay, we'll talk about that, don't worry. And sometimes you have clusters of feeds on each reflector, and by and large, sometimes you have one cluster and one reflector for each color. Why is that? Just a question. Why would you need to have different clusters of feeds and different reflectors for each color? Just a very basic question. Does anyone has an idea about that?
Because different wavelengths, different energy levels.
Yeah, but you could have different wavelengths on the same reflector. It's not quite. It's a good possibility, but it's not true.
To separate signals.
To separate signals, yeah.
I would say to combine them differently.
Okay, yeah. So the key reason there is what's the size of the feeds. The feeds have a certain size, and you're putting the feeds very close together. You cannot put them closer together because they have their own physical size. And then you will have these different feed networks on each of the reflectors. And basically, if you look at all your colors, or the A's for instance, you will see that the A's they have a certain distance between them. Okay? And that corresponds to what you can do in terms of proximity of the feeds. And that's why you have to separate usually. Like you have different feeds going on. But we'll talk about that when we talk about antenna a bit more in details. Is anyone else talking to you about antenna, by the way? No.
By now, not.
We'll talk about that. Don't worry. We'll talk about that. Has anyone already some kind of background on antennas? No. Good. Don't worry. We'll cover that. Sorry? Good.
I was asking.
I have some background, but more in the terrestrial using of the antennas.
Okay, but that's the same. It's just more expensive because it's space.
Yeah.
Because of course there are requirements of stability, thermal and stuff like that. So it's more exotic material because it's lighter. But basically, it's the same. And also you get, as I said, for the feeds, you get some dimension constraints as well. But okay, we'll cover that, don't worry. What do we see here as well, which is interesting? When you see that, what does it tell you there? What does it inspire you? This kind of shape that you see here on the top.
They are from sun.
Sorry?
They are from sun, or
Excuse me? Yes, I didn't hear you.
they from sun, or
Sorry, excuse me.
they are from sun, or no?
From what? From?
Sun, solar wind, maybe, or something.
So you mean I'm talking about this one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, you're talking about this one. Sorry, I'm talking about this one here. Well, especially that I was talking about this shape here.
It's protection.
Okay, that's that kind of chocolate paper, thermal stuff. We'll talk about that. That's a good point. Yeah. Now, what I had in mind is this kind of shape here that you see here. Well, by that, here you see it's a square. This one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's a geo, a big one. You launch one. Usually you have single launch. 5 tons, 6 tons. So you pay your launch. Sometimes you have co-passengers, but usually it's just for you. This stuff here, my point is, it's a small constellation, and it looks pretty much to me like kind of O3b, this kind of bus. My point here is, when I see that shape, I think this guy sits with another 3 or something, at least 4 in a kind of arrangement at the top of the launcher. So just to point out accommodation, physical accommodation in the launch. We'll talk about that and this notion of dispensers and things like that, because you guys may have to work on, what's the name of these things? CubeSat, sort of things. So you will have to deal with dispensers and this sort of things. So just to plant some seeds on that before we dig a bit more into these things. We'll talk about the launch as well, of course. So yeah, this one is the geo, typically, yeah, deployable, blah blah blah. Structure. I try to introduce some picture, Mr. G, by the way. You see, I'm listening to my customers.
Yeah.
Last time you said you appreciate picture. I added the picture to the previous course as well. You know, the one about the AEI, omega, blah blah blah.
But we don't have that updated presentation, I guess.
I will give them to you. I think by next time, hopefully, that's where you will see the efficiency of the administration here, which is so far very cool from what I'm seeing at my end. We'll see if they are still working or doing things, or what is their latency. Anyway, structure. Physical support to everything, basically, to the auto subsystem. Sometimes, most of the time, the payload has its own part of the structure in many cases, because it mounts on the bus. The bus is standard, and the payload has its kind of structural bit as well. Well, the number one goal, of course, to minimize mass. Guess what? Guess why, sorry? Why do you want to minimize mass?
It's cheaper to launch.
Because you pay per kilo. And we'll talk about that. We'll look at the rocket equation and all that stuff. You will see the exponential nature. I'm sure Mr. G has already heard about that. But I'm sure you guys have already heard about that a couple of times. We'll cover that. So that's why we are a prime user. We have been in space a long time, an early adopter of what we used to call exotic materials, which have now become much more mainstream, like CFRP. Is it common knowledge, CFRP?
No.
Carbon fiber reinforced plastic? No. So it's carbon fiber. This is really getting into mainstream, this carbon fiber stuff, as we speak. I mean, it's already there. I mean, on many things. I mean, like nowadays, a carbon fiber bicycle is. I mean, it's common, state of the art. I mean, there's lots of them. Having said that, for some cases, it's still quite labor intensive to produce carbon fiber complex shapes. But the real breakthrough now, I'm sure you're aware of that. You've seen that. It's additive layer manufacturing. It's basically 3D printing. That's what we call. You're all familiar with that, I guess. 3D printing. It's now almost into mainstream. And the main reason for all these structural requirements is the launch. Because the launch is terrible environment. It's really a dreadful moment for all the structure. Do you have any idea what are the main Well, it's written there, so I shouldn't ask. It's basically these three things which I wrote there. So mostly it's vibration. Vibration is really, but it's also acoustic, bizarrely. Acoustic because noise can also deteriorate some parts. I guess it's mostly the thermal blankets and all that stuff that would be affected by noise. I'm just guessing, because noise is just a propagation of a pressure wave. So it's just guesstimate from my part. And lastly, we submit the equipment to shock testing as well. Shock is a kind of pulse of force with time. No question? Can continue?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
You gave a brief explanation just now, but what exactly do you mean that, why would they have to take acoustics into account?
Well, we have to.
Why would they have to take acoustics into account?
All I can tell you is the acoustic testing are part of the mechanical testing. I know that for a fact. Why? I guess because the noise is deteriorating some stuff. I can only think about things like blankets, but if any one of you knows better, I haven't been really specialized into mechanical, but I know that all the testing involve vibration testing, acoustics, and shock as well.
So the vibrations somehow.
May I interject?
Yeah, go ahead if you know something more about that. Yeah.
So when we are talking about vibration testing, it is actually coming from the mechanical activities that are happening inside the rocket. Your pumps are running.
No, that's true. What he's asking is what,
I'm just reaching there.
What's okay?
So all that testing is something that you can actually capture. All those frequencies you can capture using a vibration table.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you actually take into account the kind of pressure waves that you have when the rocket is flying, you have, like, basically when you're standing in front of a jet plane, let's say, the kind of noise you hear, and your windows sometimes vibrate. So these frequencies you cannot actually with the vibration table.
Okay.
So you cannot
It's
simulate
too high frequency.
it's too high frequency, you cannot simulate it with a vibration table.
Okay,
So
yeah.
you need to put it in an acoustic chamber,
Yeah.
and like it has like big horns which
I see.
blast music, let us say, or these frequencies, and that's how you test your equipment. So
That makes sense. Yeah.
So quantified vibrations.
yes, not quantify, to qualify.
No,
actually.
it's because you cannot reproduce this very high vibration with motion.
Okay.
You cannot move at this frequency. You can only generate these frequencies with pressure waves. That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Makes sense. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Great. Excellent. I learned something. Yeah, shock as well. Yeah. So all that comes from the launch environment and the ability to resist to that. An example of structure. I picked that from Sentinel. Sentinel. Have you heard about the Sentinel stuff? It's current program. Yes.
So where does that like?
It's a suite of satellite. They used to have other names, but it's a suite of satellite ordered by I think it's the European Commission that's the customer now for that. It's made by ESA, of course. But I mean, it's engineered or sort of followed by ESA. Because actually, it's the programs are performed by the industry, by the primes. Thales is doing a lot of them, but cake is shared between Thales and Airbus. So in a nutshell, it's, as you said, it's observation, all kinds of remote sensing for general purpose. And in this case, it's an antenna bracket, and you can see just to show a couple of points. One of them is the structure is complex, and it's a result of an optimization that you can see at the bottom. That's the original bracket to mount your antenna. And then you optimize the structure looking at the stress levels and things like that. So it's really, I guess, when the blue is benign, red is the highest, and green is in between. So you see that you need to have more material where you have most stress, and that's what you can do with the additive layer manufacturing very, very effectively. Here, in this case, from 1.6 to less than 1 kilo. So you get something lighter, you get something stiffer than the sort of previous state of the art with beams welded and maybe pieces of metal sheets riveted together. Thermal control. Why do we need thermal control? Because basically, I mean, I think we've seen that in space, the environment is quite hard and imbalanced. You all know that in the shadow you are very, very cold, and in the sunlight you are very hot. At the end of the day, if you say in the shadow you are at absolute zero, you are not far from the truth. Absolute zero is minus 273. Because what is temperature?
Kinetic energy of molecules, of atoms.
Exactly. So if there is nothing, then there is no temperature, so we go back to the absolute zero, more or less. So, and of course, big difference with atmosphere. There is no convection, only conduction, and you have to balance the behavior between the absorption, the reflection, and the transmission. Okay. So I'm just talking about two kinds of thermal control: the active one and the passive ones. What I call passive is really the design of the overall satellite from the thermal point of view. And this design is composed of putting together various material properties. You were talking about the chocolate paper, and that's really only in order to transmit. It's transmissive equipment. It's reflective and transmitting. Sorry, not transmitting. It's reflective. So it's in order to reflect a lot of the heat outside. As part of the semi-passive, there are also heat pipes. I don't know if any of you has heard about this terminology. They are usually, I put them in the passive because they are usually without any kind of motor or any kind of pump, basically.
I think we have them in phones nowadays. Are these vapor tubes you're talking about?
What I'm talking about is something close to what used to be on small motorbikes where you had some kind of liquid without any pump. So basically, the liquid goes into a loop just because of the fluid equivalent to
Circulate.
yeah. So basically, what's the name for that? Sorry.
Like fridges?
No, fridge has a
It's like
definite
that,
pump. No.
because that's
The fridge is completely active because fridge you have a pump
Yeah.
and you're compressing and you're expanding. So I'm talking about basically there's a bit of capillarity and there's a bit of convection. Absolutely. You use convective motion to create this motion into the circuit, and you have the fluid that goes into the circuit, and also you have I forgot the most important part, which is the change of state as well, because you have in parts of the circuit you have your fluid that is evaporating, and in part of the circuit your fluid is condensing, and all that has to happen in vacuum. So it sounds okay, easy and all that. It's actually something, these things are very complex, and most of all they are very, very difficult to test. So that's why, I mean, I've never been involved into any project where there were some such loop pipe stuff. We've never used that, to my knowledge, into the stuff we've been buying. And I think that my colleagues were a bit reluctant because of the difficulty to actually test these things. And the name of the game is just what you were talking about for your phone, is basically to transfer the heat from one point to another. And hopefully in the other point, so from the location where it's generated to the location where it can be expelled one way or another. And usually the way to expel it is through what is called the radiator. So for instance, by radiating the energy. I'm just gonna probe your mind on a related fact with telecommunications. I'm jumping to the amplification stage in telecommunications. In a telecommunication satellite, you will amplify your signal. And in order to do that, you generate RF energy. The efficiency of your amplifier will be directly related to the amount of energy that you will keep on the satellite. So basically, my point is that the less efficient your amplification is, the more you will need radiative capacity on your satellite to expel these calories. Yeah.
So with a radiator, you mean like a heat sink? Something like that?
Yeah, radiator is, no, I mean, in a radiator, the terminology means this will radiate energy outside. And so basically, I mean, you can think about it like something that produces light. And the closest to that is infrared light, because infrared light is radiating a lot of energy. So basically, it's a component that, when it is heated, will start to radiate in the atmosphere. I don't know if you have ever visited Arcelor or this kind of plants.
I live right outside of this.
Sorry?
one of the appliances outside the house.
Have you been into any of these metallurgic plants already? I've been there a long time ago, and I was shocked. That plant was very cold. It was because it's not heated for good reasons, and it was a huge factory. And at the other end of the factory, about 50 meters from where I was standing, they opened the door of an oven for steel, basically. And this oven was red inside. And when they opened the door, I could really feel the heat on my face suddenly. And that's pure radiation. So this light, this infrared light, was hitting my face and a bit the rest of my body. And I could really feel that. That's really radiative heat. So it's basically heat that goes to you through the light, basically. And infrared is very good at heating, basically. It's this kind of stuff you have on cafe and things like that in winter time. It's just bright red, and that's basically pure radiation. So it almost brings you light, basically. So it's so bright, and that's a way to direct the heat towards someone, basically. And that's really what is meant by radiation. That's as opposed to conduction, convection, and sort of things. This really means so conduction is basically through a kind of
Contact.
contact. No, you have contact or even continuity of the same device. And convection is the motion of the gas, basically. Just what goes up, basically. It's as simple as that. Okay, so and then lots of what I call active thermal controls on the satellite. We always had for a long time lots of thermistors here and there, either with switches on and off, but usually it's automatic thermostat that switch these heaters so to prevent some parts to be too cool. You have a lot of that, for instance, on the pipes inside the satellite, the pipe that would transport the propellant to the thrusters. Sometimes those pipes will be exposed to, on the side, or which may be cold, of your side. And the last thing you want is something to freeze into those pipes. They may burst or something like that. So this will be usually at my time they had some thermistors there to keep them in the right temperature. Power subsystem.
Sir?
Yes, go ahead.
Is expansion contraction due to the rapid change in heat also a factor?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. But that's part of the design, and that only, in addition, it generates fatigue of the material, and it may lead to cracking and things like that. It's the reason why, at the end of the day, when you build a proto flight, you submit it to the full range of vacuum, hot and cold tests, which are probably the most expensive test you can have, because these chambers consume a lot of energy, a lot of liquid nitrogen or whatever you need to cool, and all that. quite involved in. You pump the vacuum into a big chamber. Usually the chamber is reasonably big because it needs to be able to host a complete satellite. It takes time to pump, and then you get many truckloads of liquid gas to cool the walls, to simulate the environment. And that's these tests are usually at the end of the program when it's a new design. You don't repeat that if you have a carbon copy of the previous satellite. Okay, power subsystem. Generation, storage, regulation and distribution of the power to the rest of the satellite. Usually, I have only seen satellite with solar arrays in my life. I've never seen anything else. I have heard about nuclear power generator. I have never seen that. So I know it exists. Could be for planetary exploration missions. I don't know. Maybe I've never really. I've only heard about that.
Yeah, we had a class like about law in space with the professor, and she mentioned about an accident of a Russian spacecraft or satellite that crashed in Canada, and then radiation, like nuclear radiation, was somehow like threatening the land, and they had to clean. So I'm not sure if it was like nuclear generator or some other kind of material that they were dealing with.
Probably be like that. Because of that, yeah. I can't imagine why you would have nuclear thingies on the satellite except for power generation, yeah. I don't think it's a weapon or something like that. The trend is like in the car industry, the trend is to move to higher voltages on the typical bus. And we're moving right now from 50 to 100 volts. Why is that? Why would that be?
Less current.
There's a few reasons for that. Yeah, go ahead.
Less current for the same
Less
power.
current and probably less losses in the harness for the distribution. Could be also that some of the users require high voltage in some cases. There are some specific users.
The gauge of the wires also come down when we go for higher voltage, so we save weight.
Save mass.
We save mass.
Yeah. Sure. So I think on the Eurostar and or Spacebus in Europe, they're going to. I think Boeing has already moved to 200 volts from memory. if I remember. Okay. Anything else on power? Questions? No? No? Okay. Okay. The solar arrays. A few numbers there. Very, very coarse number. So as we've seen from the picture, what I wanted to put in your mind is usually these guys, they are not anymore fixed. And that's back in those days, the Boeing spinners, they were fixed. It was very robust, very simple design. Have you ever seen one of these spinning satellites? Imagine a camembert box, okay? A box of cheese, camembert, okay? A cylinder basically, a bit higher. And then it's two cylinders and the way they deploy, it's one of the part will extend from the lower part. Quick going, but I think I can do an artistic impression of the spinner. That's the 80s generation of satellite. Where is my pens? Ah, it is here. It's still on the table. Nobody's touched it. It looks like nobody came. So, and on top of that, you have a plate here that hosts typically the antennas. And this plate here is just contra-rotating with respect to the bus, which is spinning, hence the name spinner. And it's spinning at a reasonable rate so that it gives the satellite a certain stiffness. Just like any kind of, down. Sorry?
Are you talking about the top?
The stuff you spin like that, spindle or
Spinner. Yeah.
spindle,
Top.
spindle or what do you-
Spin top.
yeah, spindle or I don't remember the name for exactly.
Oh, like
But
these fidget spinners, this also
Yeah,
stable.
yeah, good stuff. We'll talk about that when we talk about attitude, maybe. Just briefly, do you have any idea why it's interesting to have momentum on board a satellite? Like this spinner, that constitutes momentum on board the satellite. The whole body is spinning, and then the whole body is covered with solar cells. So that gives you stiffness, basically. It's the reason why your spindle is staying upright and it's not falling like that. We'll talk about that later because it's quite interesting. The difference between no momentum on board and a momentum on board, and the effect a small force has on the attitude of a body in one case or in the other. Keep that in mind. We'll come back to that. Now, obviously, the limitation of the design, where do you think that is compared to the ones I showed before? Was it in this one? Or let me come back to when you see this here, and when you see that. Why do you think this design has disappeared and compared to this one? Yeah, go ahead.
Half of these solar panels are not facing the sun, so they don't use anything.
Yeah, that's part of the equation. Yeah.
It's more stable.
Not really, because that was a very simple design. It was inherently reasonably stable. Okay, there are thrusters and all that, but the main reason, I think you're close to that. The main reason
really
is
like one line that is really
the main reason is you are limited
Surface
into
area.
the surface of the cells that you can like. So basically, you are limited in power. These guys, they were like, from memory, I would say, on the top of my head, I don't remember exactly. They're probably like something between 3 and 6 kilowatts. I'm not sure, but I think that's probably ballpark. You can look up Boeing spinner satellite and you probably can find that. Whereas now, we are talking about anything from 12 to 20 kilowatt in terms of power generation, order of magnitude wise, for a 3-axis. By the way, we call that 3-axis stabilized. That's terminology.
Also, would you generally want to avoid moving parts within the device?
Well, that goes against the new one, because the new one does have moving parts, and they are pretty tricky with moving parts.
Are they less than the spinning?
No. Well, these ones, in this one, the tricky moving parts, they are here and there. They are on here, there. They are the brushes that you have to conduct the current from the solar arrays to the power subsystems. And these are tricky sheets, these ones, because you don't want to get that wrong. These are failure points. There's both the continuous contact, wear and tear, and of course very high currents. So that's a tricky part in this kind of design. Not everybody knows how to do that. But here it's simple. But really, what killed the Boeing spinner is the race to higher power, basically. Okay, we've covered the power subsystem, the solar array, sun facing with motors, triple junction. You've heard about the multiple junction cells, triple junction. Basically, you can see it as layers. Each layer is capturing a different spectrum of light, so different wavelengths, so different energy from different parts. And with that, you can claim these days, that's what I got in my memory. Feel free to look and see if it's ballpark correct. I think it should be. It's about a third of efficiency. So basically, the flux that you get, which is at our level about 1300 watt per square meter, you get one third of that, more or less. And as we mentioned last time, well, I mentioned last time because I was doing most of the talking, I guess. The decay is reasonably small. I think it's below 1%. What I've seen, but still, it's. I think it's quite remarkable because this stuff is getting a lot of shit from the sun, and the cover glass is getting obscured, and there's a few. I mean, it's just look at any kind of plastic or things like that. You live outside every day in, day out in the nature. You will see it cracking and getting old very, very quickly. So I think it's quite remarkable that these things only lose 1% per year. It's certainly much better, of course, than the solar cells the solar arrays that you have on the Earth. But also it's due to the fact that the energy is a bit less because of some of it is captured by the atmosphere. So that partly explains why you get better efficiency in vacuum for the solar array. Okay, a few. That's a spinner here. I forgot that I put that picture. That's one. Look at that. That's a picture of the spinner. These ones, camembert boxes, and you can see here you can guess from that picture how it's deployed. So it's basically two half that. I mean, this goes inside this, and it's about half the height. And the top is counter-rotating vis-à-vis the rest. Okay, a few hints about how shall I say trade-off, and you're familiar with that terminology, trade-off. What does that mean, trade-off to you?
Exchange between pros and cons.
I mean, trade-off to me means you can't have your cake and eat it, basically. You only have a number of coins in your pocket, and you want to buy many things. If you buy that, you cannot buy this. That's sort of thing that comes into my mind. So trade-off, it means to me, how do you reach a most efficient solution for what you want to do. So in this case, we have quite a few trade-off. Solar array and battery size. Because of your mission duration, you need to dimension your solar array a little bit more, so that at the end of the mission you still have sufficient power, and also the capacity of the battery you need to have. Why do we need batteries, by the way, in many cases?
Orbiting, when you're at a dark spot, you do still need to...
Okay, on the shadow, that's one good point, yeah. Sometimes it's also to stabilize the power, but it's the main reason. When you're in the shadow, yeah. Attitude control, so you have two kinds of attitude control, the spinner, we've talked about that briefly. And last, we'll talk about properly the AOCS system. It's probably one of the most complex systems, so I'm not sure we're going to be able to cover everything right now. Are you familiar with the roll pitch yaw definition? No, never heard about that. So, if you look at if you imagine a spinner, not a spinner, sorry, a geo. A geo, yaw. So your geo, you're looking at the Earth. Yaw is the angle. When you have yaw angle, you see the Earth rotating. I'm looking at the Earth and rotating like that. That's a yaw angle. Roll is along is the angle along the velocity. So basically, when I'm rolling, my payload is going from north to south or south to north. If I'm a geo, that rings a bell. And pitch is the third one. Pitch, I'm going to go from east to west with my payload if I'm moving in pitch. Quickly, the sensors, traditional sensors, Earth sensors, sense sensors, and star mappers. Nowadays, star mappers are getting more and more used. They were not available previously, like 10 years ago. Any idea why? And how does it work, a star mapper? What do you think? How can it work, star mapper? Any idea?
There's some kind of onboard camera that looks at the constellations and they can pinpoint the location based on that.
Exactly. I mean, you have a CCD, which is like what's used in your mobile phone to produce pictures, and this CCD will compare the location of the stars that it gets to a map of the stars that it has, and with that, it does reconstitute its attitude. When they first were introduced, the people where I worked, they compared that to, they compared using a star mapper to driving a car facing the rear with a rear view mirror, basically. So, because people were used to look directly at the Earth. Have you seen already how an Earth sensor works typically? I'm trying to produce some picture. In the field of view of your Earth sensors, you have 4 bolometers. Bolometer is very close to the type of sensors that automatically switches the water on when you stopped in the men's room. Basically, it's or when you put your hand in the sink, that switches the water on. It's the same kind of sensors. It's basically infrared, triggered by the infrared. We produce infrared. So these things, you get the sum of these and the difference of these, and by the sum and the difference, you get roll and pitch. So basically, north, south, and east, west signals to control your attitude directly pointing toward the Earth. That's how it works on what we call at this time IRES, I-R-E-S. Sun sensor is more easy. Sun sensor is a slit, and behind that slit you have something which is close to a solar cell, which capture electrical energy when the sun goes directly into that slit. So that gives you the timing, if it's a spinner, and the inclination of the sun at this time. It's kind of information that you use to get your attitude.
I'm not sure I understood how the Earth sensor works.
The Earth sensor is typically made of 4 sensors that are in the field of view of the Earth. What I represent here is the Earth. There's some optics there. These 4 sensors are basically, they are producing a signal which is proportional to this portion of the area which is illuminated by the Earth.
How do you distinguish between sunlight and the reflected sunlight that comes from the Earth?
You do have sun blindings from time to time when the sun goes behind. Okay, you have periods when it affects it. That's true, but by and large, except when you have so close to eclipse period, because the sun, when you are outside eclipse period, the sun will be there and there. When you start to enter the eclipse period for a GO, the sun will move nearer, and then you may have some blinding periods from the sun, of course. But otherwise, since you're looking at the sum and the difference, it's not really too much affected by the time of the day. Because basically what it's working on is the infrared radiation of the Earth. But you're correct, you have some blinding periods because of the sun and the moon, by the way. Yeah. Okay. A bit about the actuators. We'll talk about that more in details when we talk about the rocket equation, because the rocket equation is also true for any kind of thruster. And just here to point that you have mostly 3 kinds of thrusters. You have the old and very, very primitive cold gas without any kind of chemical reaction. And then you have a monopropellant, which is a single gas that kind of burns. And then you have biprop, where you combine at the thruster level 2 categories of fluids, one which is called the oxidizer and one which is called the oxidizer and fuel, yeah, or like a better, yeah. So this is the efficiency of that is measured by what we call the ISP. Have you guys heard about that stuff? ISP. We'll talk about that. No, nobody else. I'm sure you've heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in more detail. But I think I will tell you something that you don't know. I hope. Why is the ISP measured in seconds? I discovered that recently. We'll talk about that in more detail, but just think about it, and I don't want to. Because I discovered that recently, and it's interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, we'll talk about that next time. Another type of actuators are the wheels. You have wheels, and these wheels, they are for two reasons. And there are two different names, but in both cases they are wheels, basically, also with the motor. They can be either called momentum wheels or reaction wheels. Reaction wheels, you want to use the reactives, and by the way, if you are using momentum wheels, they also do reaction as well. Ah, bonjour. Ça va, ça va. Bon, I'm running a bit late, so yeah. I will continue this course next time because I'm a bit late on this one, and we'll talk about that later. But I can tell you already what I'm talking about. The reason is in seconds.
Because when you basically the mass in 10 parts that you deliver.
It's just because at this time, you know, in the 50s, you had Germans or you had the Americans. And these guys, they wanted to they wanted to have something that they could agree on in terms of measurements. The other stuff, the logical stuff is GISP, which is the regular stuff. And G, for us, G is 9.8, blah, blah, blah. We're using the fucking normal stuff. And these guys, they use them imperial, blah, blah, blah. So, different numbers. And this is the only reason why fucking ISP is in second. We'll talk about that next time. That's the only reason why. The seconds, everybody use seconds. Exactly. And in practice, what you need is to be GISP is the real stuff. I always wondered why. But anyway, we'll talk about that stuff.
No?
Because basically what you want is the speed of ejection of the mass. That's the measure which is really important. Because basically you eject mass, and the more quickly this mass is ejected, the better off you are, because the more efficient this ejection will be in terms of giving you a delta velocity. That's as simple as that. So we'll talk about that next week, among other things.
So what's now the difference between momentum wheel and reaction wheel?
The difference is momentum wheel is also used as reaction, but because you're also using it to control one axis. But the momentum wheel, you always keep it at in a certain range of velocity, because you want to have a certain momentum on board.
So the reaction.
And the reaction wheel can be anything from zero, from plus to minus, and it can go through zero, it doesn't matter. The momentum wheel, you always want to keep it around a certain, and the way you desaturate it, because if you have an average torque in a given direction along your orbit, then if you have an average torque in a given direction, then your wheel speed will increase with time. And then from time to time you need to desaturate. And the way you do that is, for instance, in many cases, is through magneto-torquers. So it's basically coils that you switch on, interacting with the field, the B, the field, magnetic field. They produce a torque on the satellite, and the effect of this torque is that your wheel, you slow down your wheel basically, because usually you try to align this torque with the direction of the wheel. That's quite good. You probably use that on satellites. Desaturation of momentum wheels, doesn't ring a bell.
We usually call them flywheels.
Yeah. But you desaturate that from time to time if it's
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way you do that is you have magneto-torquers, usually. Or thrusters. Depends. Anyway, Good. So, I let the floor to Nicolas.
How will you upload these two presentations? Will you send them to Marielle or?
If Marielle is here, I will ask her, but it should be resolved pretty soon. She has to give me the access to that stuff. Apparently, Nicolas has the access already. I can share that with Nicolas, and then
If today's presentation can be just copied, we can just copy the presentation of today.
yeah, sure, please do. Yeah, if you can copy it on, while it's on the. Yeah, go ahead before I remove the.
I saw your email, sorry about that, I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at the PDF.
I was here.
So these two, I'm sorry, one is in PDF and the other one, I copied up the. Yeah, go ahead. Copy these two and then I will remove the rest of it. And if you could also handle the Nicolas, hello. I'm giving you back your book. I made some advertisement for the book.
Yeah.
To the students, yeah. Everybody wants to buy the book now.
It's expensive. Yeah.
Reject. That's why we don't want to buy it anymore.
They will be on site.
Merci pour l'invitation. Je sais pas si c'est j'ai conservé un petit peu.